In the last episode, we saw how Indian citizens were rewarded with fundamental rights.
These were the basic freedoms which free people in a free country would enjoy.
Then we saw how the preamble of the Constitution came into existence. Let's continue.
Hello and welcome. I am Preeti Chaudhary and we are back once again retelling the epic story that led to the framing of a document that binds each one of us. With all our diversity, what keeps us as one? The Constitution of India.
We, the people of India, have solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, and equality of status and opportunity. I adopt, enact, and give ourselves this Constitution.
To begin with, let's hark back to that rainy August morning, the first morning of independent India. A nation was born with its destiny in its own hands, the hand that would write its own fate. But the question was, in what language? A country with diverse languages, diverse dialect that changed every 200 kilometers, the question was, which was that one language that will bind the entire India? Should it be Hindi, Hindustani, English, or any other regional language?
Partition didn't only divide a nation into two, but there were partitions of courage, excitement, and more than anything, belief was parted. When the turmoil between Hindus and Muslims was at its peak, caste-based unrest was on the rise too. When regions were battling on the one hand, there were battles over language going on too. Before independence, people who wanted to make Hindustani their mother tongue started swearing on Hindi. Those who saw the pride of Hind in Hindi started loving Urdu more. Other local languages were in their place, from Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam to Marathi, Kannada, Gujarati, Punjabi, Kashmiri, Oriya, Bangla, Assamese. How many will we count?
Events in 1960s and late 50s proved us true because linguistic division of states took place and there used to be language riots. From the 50s and 60s onwards, fortunately till today, we have not had that.
In such a situation, the most controversial issue while making the Constitution was language. The most important question that stood was, what should be the national language of India? The topic on which the Constituent Assembly had the most debates, disagreements happened, and it was an issue of national language. The questions raised in the Constituent Assembly were, what should be the spoken language for the Assembly? In which language should the Constitution of India be written? And finally, which language should be called the national language of India? It was just the beginning of the unrest that these questions brought to the Assembly, and on December the 10th jumps in R.V. Dhulekar, who created a huge ruckus for Hindi to be chosen as the national language. He got into a major disagreement with the then pro tem speaker Sachidanand on the same matter.
सभापति महोदय, मैं चाहता हूं कि संशोधन में
क्या मैं माननीय सदस्य से ये पूछ सकता हूं कि क्या वो अंग्रेजी नहीं जानते?
मैं अंग्रेजी जानता हूं, मगर हिंदुस्तानी में बोलना चाहता हूं।
बहुतेरे सदस्य हिंदुस्तानी नहीं जानते। उदाहरण के लिए श्री राजगोपालाचारी को ही ले लीजिए।
जो हिंदुस्तानी नहीं जानते, उन्हें हिंदुस्तान में रहने का अधिकार ही नहीं है। जो लोग यहाँ भारत का विधान निर्माण करने के लिए आए हैं और हिंदुस्तानी नहीं जानते, वे इस सभा के सदस्य होने योग्य नहीं है। बेहतर होगा कि वो सभा छोड़कर चले जाए।
ऑर्डर।
सभापति महोदय, मेरा संशोधन यह है कि प्रोसीजर कमेटी अपने नियम पहले हिंदुस्तानी में बनाए और उसके बाद उसका अंग्रेजी में अनुवाद किया जाए।
प्लीज।
एक भारतीय होने के नाते मैं ये अपील करता हूं कि जो इस देश को आजाद करने के लिए तुले हैं, उसके लिए संघर्ष कर रहे हैं, उन्हें अपनी भाषा में सोचना और बोलना चाहिए।
ऑर्डर। I do not permit you to proceed anymore.
आपको मेरी बात सुननी पड़ेगी।
Please resume
इस
your
देश की
seat
भाषा
now.
हिंदुस्तानी ही होगी।
Resume your seat just now.
धुलेकर साहब, आप जो कहना चाहते थे आप कह चुके हैं।
देखिए पंडित जी,
अब मेहरबानी करके इस हाउस की इज्जत रखिए और अपनी जगह पर बैठ जाइए। धुलेकर साहब, हाउस में इज्जत रखना बहुत जरूरी है। ये कोई झांसी की आम सभा नहीं है जहां जोर जोर से भाइयों और बहनों चिल्लाकर भाषण झाड़ना शुरू कर दे। समझे? आइए, चलिए
देखिए पंडित जी,
चलिए
मैं इस
चलिए
बात-
चलिए।
It's only been 3 days since we convened the assembly. If the atmosphere persists, it would have led to significant problems in the days ahead. That day, Nehru, with this statement, reprimanded Dhulekar and sent him back to his seat. The constitution makers realized that the issue of language was incredibly complex.
Over a third of India's population speaks Hindi, hence it seemed easier for Hindi to be declared as the national language. Many politicians who come from the Hindi belt of India knew that if Hindi was forced, it would be difficult to run the country.
At that time, we were facing partition, divisiveness, fissiparous tendencies. These were very, very wise men and women. They were much wiser than us. And they took a calculated decision ultimately that, look, we have to carry everybody together. Why add one more conflagrating point which is not necessary?
Some members demanded that the vehicle number plates in Delhi should be written in Hindi. Some members wanted that Hindustani should never replace Hindi, which was advocated by Gandhi. Some members wanted numbers should also be written in Hindi instead of English. And some demanded that the constitution should be written in Hindi officially and that it should be written in English unofficially. But Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar's drafting committee rejected this proposal as it appeared. Their argument was that in English, it would be easier to explain and write legal and technical matters.
The entire working of governance of India, the laws of India, used to be done in English. English at that point in time was the only official language in the governance of the country, in the academics of the country, in the legal framework of the country. Therefore, it came into English. And also they got the best assistance. The leaders were also very comfortable in English.
On the question of language, Mahatma Gandhi had always thought that to keep India united, Hindustani should be accepted as a national language. Even in southern India, many people were propagating Hindustani on his instructions. Some time before his death, Gandhi had presented a philosophy on Hindustani.
हिंदुस्तानी भाषा को ना संस्कृत निष्ठ हिंदी बनाना चाहिए, ना फारसी भरी उर्दू। इसे तो दोनों का एक मीठा सा मिश्रण होना चाहिए। हिंदुस्तानी में दूसरे इलाकों की बोलियों से भी शब्द लेने चाहिए और अगर ज़रूरत पड़े तो विदेशी भाषाओं से भी। हाँ, अगर वो लफ्ज़ आसानी से राष्ट्रभाषा में घुल मिल सकें तो। इस तरह हमारी राष्ट्रभाषा को एक ऐसी शक्तिशाली ज़बान बनाना होगा जो सारे इंसानी विचारों को और जज्बों को बयान कर सके। सिर्फ हिंदी तक या उर्दू तक अपने आप को सीमित रखना तो देश की अक्ल और आत्मा के साथ अपराध होगा।
In March 1947, a committee was formed for the rights of the people. It was decided that Hindustani would be the national language and the state language of the government can be written in Hindi or Urdu. English would be the second national language. But partition of the country confused the language issue the most. Pakistan considered Urdu to be their national language. So here, many members of the Constitutional Committee began to shout in ignorance and protest against Hindi. This protest affected members from southern India, and they started asking for English or their regional language.
देश के किसी भी भाग में बोलने वाली कोई भी भाषा, वो चाहे उन भाषाओं में हो या ना हो जिनको नेशनल लैंग्वेजेस डिक्लेयर किया गया, मैं मानता हूँ राष्ट्रीय भाषा, हर भाषा, चाहे थोड़ी सी लोग बोलते हो, क्योंकि हमारे देश की भाषा है। लेकिन संविधान हमारे ऊपर एक जिम्मेदारी डालता है कि हम हिंदी को संपर्क की भाषा के तौर पे विकसित करने का प्रयास करें। वो जारी है। अगर कुछ लोगों के बीच में, मैं नहीं मानता सारा दक्षिण भारत, लेकिन कुछ लोग हैं जिनको उस पर, जिनके रिजर्वेशंस हैं, हमारी जिम्मेदारी है कि हम उनको एक तरफ ये एश्योर करेंगे कि उनकी मातृभाषा का विकास पूरा होना चाहिए, और साथ में ये बताएंगे कि हमारी एक राष्ट्रीय आवश्यकता है कि अंग्रेज़ी तो है, अंग्रेज़ी है हमारी संपर्क भाषा, लेकिन संविधान हमारे ऊपर ये जिम्मेदारी भी डालता है कि हम हिंदी को संपर्क की भाषा के तौर पे विकसित करें।
If there was any party which had an influence nationwide, that was the Congress. But partition divided languages too. There were divisions among the Congress members, only that they had to vote on the issue of language. Most among them voted the Hindustani language out and lost with a vote of 63 against 32. Hindi won. Dr. Ambedkar was aware of both the importance of Hindi and the political influence of the Congress. That is why in the drafting committee meeting, Ambedkar spoke in favor of Hindi.
I will say we cannot deny the fact that Congress has an indisputable majority. And if they are bent upon changing Hindustani to Hindi, we will have to come around sooner or later. Then why not sooner than later?
On November the 5th, 1948, the draft of the Constitution was presented among the members of the Constituent Assembly. Then too, language became a major point of discussion. All leaders from the Hindi belt created a dispute for the Hindi language.
महोदय, मेरा मत है कि हिंदी और केवल हिंदी इस देश की राष्ट्रभाषा हो सकती है। हिंदी बनाम हिंदुस्तानी का विवाद अब समाप्त हो चुका है, क्योंकि संविधान की धारा 99 के अनुसार केवल दो भाषाएं हैं, अंग्रेजी और हिंदी, जिनमें संसद की कार्रवाई हो सकती है। जहां तक दक्षिण भारत के नागरिकों और सदस्यों का सवाल है, मैं स्वीकार करता हूं कि कुछ वर्षों तक कार्यवाही को अंग्रेजी में चलाना होगा। उन पर हम जबरदस्ती कुछ लाद तो नहीं सकते, मगर अंत में हिंदी ही हमारी राष्ट्रभाषा होगी और साथ में देवनागरी हमारी राष्ट्रलिपि।
Well, those from the Hindi-speaking regions felt a sense of pride in their language. Others opposed it. While some were concerned about further divisions within the country, they were already witness to the consequences in Pakistan, when Pakistan's founder, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, visited what is now Bangladesh. He then declared Urdu to be the national language, despite Bangla being the predominant spoken and written language in the region. Back home in India, leaders from southern India like T.T. Krishnachari, from Bengal like Lakshmikant Mitra, and from Punjab like Gyani Gurmukh Singh, all stood up in the assembly to accuse the committee of what they called was Hindi imposition.
The anger was so great that all non-Hindi members felt that this was a campaign against the Hindi Empire. On the 30th of July 1948, when there was a discussion on the service condition of workers of the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, Govindas raised the question of Hindi. Some members, including Sitaramaiah, also opposed it. Then a special committee was formed under the leadership of K.M. Munshi and Gopalswamy Iyengar. Although some people were upset over why Hindi people were not included in the committee for Hindi, But on the 12th of September 1949, the report that Iyengar put in front of the Lok Sabha was incredible.
So, opinion has not always been unanimous on this question. There was, however, one thing about which we reached a fairly unanimous conclusion, that we should select one of the languages of India as the common language of the whole of India.
चलो इंग्लिश तो गई, अब देखते हैं कौन सा लैंग्वेज आता है सर.
The final decision is that we should adopt Hindi as the language for all official purposes of the Union under the Constitution. The subsidiary decisions were that we had to keep English going for a period of 15 years until Hindi could establish for itself a position in which English stands today. So, I move that the official language of the Union shall be Hindi in the Devanagari script, and the form of numbers shall be the international form of Indian numerals. So, the whole world, with one or two exceptions, have adopted the international form of the Indian numerals. It is but right that we should keep in step with the whole world, or it should really be the other way. The whole world is already in step with us, who really gave these numerals to the world. Now, sir, a few words regarding the language of the courts. Lawmaking and law interpretation require an amount of precision, and a number of expressions and words have acquired a certain definite meaning. And until we reach that stage in regard to the Hindi language, and I do not think at present Hindi language is anywhere near it, my own feeling is that English language will last in forms of bills and laws and interpretation of such laws, but not for much longer than 15 years.
It was decided that Hindi would be the national language of the country. However, the issue of translating the constitution into Hindi soon arose. Gyani Gurmukh Singh Musafir remarked in a meeting that while the Urdu translation of the constitution was comprehensible, the Hindi translation was not. Renowned Hindi scholar of the time, Raghuveera, had prepared the translation. Yet, even Nehru confided to Rajendra Babu that he struggled to understand the meaning of many of the Hindi words used.
On the basis of partition, the question of language had begun to take on a communal color. Members like Seth Govind Das even said that supporters of Hindi are not communal, but supporters of Urdu are communal. Many Hindi-speaking members wanted to make Hindi Sanskrit-free, which was opposed by Muslim members like Hafizur Rahman and Qazi Sayyid Karimuddin.
जनाबे वाला, मुझे याद है और मैं भूला नहीं हूँ कि जब 30 जनवरी को वो अजीम और बहुत बड़ा हादसा पेश आया, जब किसी जालिम ने गांधी जी को हमसे छीन लिया। उस हादसे से तकरीबन 3 रोज पहले गांधी जी से बिरला हाउस में मेरी बात हुई थी। तब महात्मा गांधी ने मुझसे कहा था कि मुल्क में अमन हो गया है और मुझे बहुत खुशी हुई है कि जिस तरह आपने दिल्ली में अमन कायम करने के लिए मेरा साथ दिया है, उसी तरह हिंदुस्तानी ज़बान के प्रचार के लिए भी हिंदुस्तान भर में कोशिश करनी होगी और इसमें आप लोगों को मेरा साथ देना होगा। उस वक्त मैंने उनसे कहा था, हम आपके साथ हैं। लेकिन आज यहाँ पर हिंदी को उसी हिंदुस्तानी की जगह रखा जा रहा है और गांधी जी के और कांग्रेस के 30 साल तारीख के खिलाफ गलत कदम उठाया जा रहा है। ये मालूम हुआ है कि हिंदी का मतलब उस जबान से है जो संस्कृताइज्ड हो, जिसमें उर्दू, अरबी, फारसी के अल्फाजों की जगह नए अल्फाज लाए जाएं। मेरे भाई सेठ गोविंद दास जी ने कहा कि उर्दू से उन्हें बहुत प्रेम है, लेकिन उर्दू मुसलमानों की जबान है।
श्रीमान, मैंने ये कभी नहीं कहा कि उर्दू मुसलमानों की भाषा है।
एक खास फिरके की जबान मानकर ही आपने एतराज किया था। इससे तो बाहर की चीजें ही जाहिर होती हैं। मैं गुजारिश करूंगा कि उर्दू को मुसलमान ना ईरान से लेकर आए, ना स्पेन से और ना अरब से, बल्कि उर्दू हिंदू मुस्लिम की बोलचाल बाजारों, मकानों और गली कूचों से वजूद में आई। क्या आप नहीं जानते कि हाल ही के मजहबी शायर मोहसिन काकोरी ने पैगम्बर इस्लाम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की तारीफ की है। वो कहते हैं, सिमत काशी से चला है जानिबे मथुरा बादल, बर्क़ के कांधे पे लाई है सबा गंगा जल, खबर उड़ती हुई आई है जहां में ये अभी, के चले आते हैं तीरथ को हवा पर बादल। इस शायरी में गंगा और मथुरा का जिक्र आया है और शायर ने मक्का, मदीना और जमजम को काशी, मथुरा और गंगा जल के रंग में दिखाया है। इसलिए महात्मा जी ने ठीक फरमाया था कि अगर यूनियन की कोई आम जबान बन सकती है जो तमाम मुल्क में बोली और समझी जा सके, तो वो हिंदुस्तानी ही है।
The same language debate continued over which language should be used for numbers, Hindi or English. Finally, on November the 14th, 1949, it was decided that the capital language of India would be Hindi. At the same time, 22 languages were rightfully recognized. Numbers would be written in English, that is, international calculation. But English would be used officially for 15 years till Hindi becomes useful enough.
The consensus was in favor of Hindi being the national language with Devanagari script, but at the same time, English should be continued for some time. That's it. Till Hindi is able to deal with all the issues relating to the governance and other things, important issues. For example, the terminology, medical terminology, engineering, and professional field, whether Hindi will be able to adequately express these things.
Some members were not ready to tolerate English for 15 years. Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, who was also Education Minister of the country at the time, gave a very memorable speech.
जहां तक जबान का ताल्लुक है तो आम तौर पर यह बात मान ली गई है कि कौमी जबान वो जबान हो सकती है जो उत्तरी हिंद की जबान हो, लेकिन इस वक्त उत्तरी हिंद की जबान के लिए 3 नाम पैदा हो गए हैं: उर्दू, हिंदी और हिंदुस्तानी। हिंदुस्तानी अपने वसी दामन में उत्तरी हिंद की जबान के तमाम रंग और रूप ले सकती है। उसमें हिंदी भी आ सकती है, उसमें उर्दू भी आ सकती है, और इसके सिवा एक नए फैलाव की गुंजाइश भी रह जाती है। हिंदुस्तानी किसी भी अंसर को खारिज नहीं करती, बल्कि हर चीज को अपने अंदर समेट लेती है।
Despite not being part of the Constitutional Assembly, Gandhi's influence was profound. The Assembly agreed on a 10-year period of protection for Dalits to foster equality. However, Ambedkar insisted on a clear reservation process for Dalits in government jobs, in legislative bodies, and even in ministerial positions. Despite discussions about constitutional changes, a significant faction opposed reservations.
The caste system had hollowed out Hindu society from within. The class system's Shudras and the caste system's untouchables did not have a dignified life. It was considered a sin to even touch them. When Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar came out against the caste system, he raised his voice like never before. To understand this, we will have to go back to the days of slavery, when Ambedkar wanted a separate election system for Dalits, and Gandhi sat on a fast unto death against it.
आप अपनी जिद छोड़ क्यों नहीं देते गांधी जी?
अगर आपको कुछ हो गया तो आपके शिष्य मुझे बेकार में इल्जाम देंगे।
आमरण अनशन करने का फैसला मेरा अपना है, और अगर मुझे कुछ हो गया तो उसके लिए कोई और नहीं, सिर्फ मैं जिम्मेदार होऊंगा। पर अगर हरिजनों और बाकी हिंदुओं का बंटवारा हो गया तो उसके लिए जिम्मेदार आप होंगे अंबेडकर जी।
हिंदू और हरिजन एक थे ही कब, जो अब आप उनमें बंटवारे की बात कर रहे हैं?
आप सही कह रहे हैं। हिंदू संप्रदाय ने हरिजनों को सदियों से अछूत बना के रखा है, पर अब जब मौका आया है कि राजनीतिक रूप से दोनों साथ साथ आ सकें, तो आप क्यों हरिजनों के लिए अलग चुनावी व्यवस्था की मांग कर रहे हैं?
गांधी जी, एक दिन वोटिंग बूथ में 7 वोट डाल देने से हिंदू और हरिजन एक नहीं हो जाएंगे।
पर हरिजन हरिजनों को चुने और सवर्ण सवर्णों को। इस कायदे से तो तुम उन्हें हमेशा के लिए अलग रखने का इंतजाम कर रहे हो। मेरी तजवीज ये है कि हम हर बार कुछ ऐसी सीटें तय करें जिनमें हर एक को केवल हरिजन कैंडिडेट ही चुनने होंगे, फिर वो खुद चाहे किसी भी वर्ग वर्ण के क्यों ना हो। और बाकी सीटों पे भी हरिजन को उसी तरह से खड़े रहने का अधिकार होगा जैसे कि किसी भी हिंदुस्तानी को।
मुझे सोचने के लिए थोड़ा वक्त चाहिए होगा गांधी जी।
There were only 2 leaders who fought against the malpractices of the Hindu religion, Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The irony is that Gandhi was killed in the name of Hindutva by a frenzied Hindu, and Ambedkar had to quit Hinduism 53 days before his demise. At first, Ambedkar failed to see Gandhi's vision of Dalits and untouchable sufferings, but ultimately Ambedkar had to give in to Gandhi's request, and on September the 24th, 1932, the very famous Pune Pact was passed between the two in Pune's Yerwada Central Jail. In this pact, the demand for an isolated electoral group for Dalits was kept aside. Instead of that, the reserved number of seats for Dalits were increased from 71 to 147 in the State Assembly and 18% of the number of seats in the central government. Now let's go to the Constituent Assembly, where the first committee was formed for Dalits and minorities. There were 72 people in it. When the committee was formed, many suggestions began to drop in. In the Constituent Assembly, it was decided that Dalits should be protected for 10 years so they can achieve equality.
The assembly was divided on whether to grant reservations to Dalit and how to do so. Some members feared that reservations would create a divide between forward and backward classes, leading to intense efforts, both officially and unofficially, to persuade Ambedkar to withdraw his reservation policy.
Ambedkar wanted Dalits, Peshwas and minorities to get as much space in the election system as possible. Otherwise, only influential people will keep coming from every election seat, was the thought process. But K.M. Munshi and H.C. Mukherjee, who were members of the committee, believed that this would give strength to the separatist discourse. That is, the country would go into a state before Gandhi and Ambedkar's Pune Pact. No one was agreeing with Ambedkar. The discussion was focused now on insensitivity.
Next on the agenda, untouchability in any form shall be abolished.
अस्पृश्य का मतलब यहाँ हर प्रकार की छूत अछूत से नहीं हो सकता। मैं आपको निश्चित तौर से बता सकता हूँ कि एक हिंदू के लिए कोई मुसलमान या क्रिस्तान अछूत होते हैं और प्रलय के दिन तक वो अछूत ही रहेंगे। मेरे तई यहां हमारा अर्थ हिंदू समुदाय में फैली हुई छुआछूत से।
Do you mean to say that untouchability should be restricted?
प्रश्न हिंदू समाज में निहित छूत अछूत की परंपरा का है।
The idea here is that untouchability in any form should be abolished.
क्रिस्तानों और मुसलमानों को इस बात की फिक्र ही नहीं रहती कि हिंदू उन्हें अछूत मानते हैं या नहीं।
So do you mean to suggest that so far Christians and Muslims are concerned, untouchability should be retained?
मेरा ये अर्थ नहीं है।
But your suggestion will result in that.
You are probably aware that there are some Christians who suffer from the same disabilities as the Hindu untouchables. This is to say, the depressed class who've been converted into Christianity in Travancore, Malabar, and Cochin.
हमें इस समिति के उद्देश्य के बारे में साफ होना पड़ेगा कि क्या हम यहाँ केवल हिंदुओं में अस्पृश्यता हटाने के लिए बैठे हैं या ईसाइयों, मुसलमानों और सिखों में भी, यानी कि सब में छूत अछूत मिटाने को जमा है।
At long last, a terrible reality of the Indian caste system was removed from the Constitution of India. When there was a time that even the shadow of Dalits was seen as a bad omen, now these were the ones rising and participating in nation building. These included people like Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, Jagjeevan Ram, and Muniswami Pillai.
By now, it was clear that Ambedkar would play a crucial role in shaping the Constitution of India and that the rights of Dalit would be secured. But even less representation of Dalits in the Constituent Assembly was a clear thought. In the Assembly, Dalit leader F.J. Khandekar questioned why there was only one Dalit leader representing a constituency with nearly 25% Dalit population, while states with just 2% Brahmins had a disproportionate representation in the cabinet. He expressed his frustration, stating that apart from Gandhi and a few others, the interests of Dalits were largely ignored.
Long day with the Constitution, Bhimrao.
Yes, after a short nap, a long night with the Constitution.
आपकी मेहनत देखकर तो ईर्ष्या होती है।
अब आप लोगों ने काम दिया है तो पूरा तो करना पड़ेगा, फिर दिन क्या और रात क्या।
भीमराव, आपसे एक बात करनी थी।
जी बोलिए।
आपने तो देखा ही है सभा में कितने लोग सरकारी नौकरियों में आरक्षण का विरोध कर रहे हैं। अब अगर शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल ट्राइब वालों को आरक्षण दिया गया तो आप तो जानते ही हैं फिर सिख, ईसाई, पारसी, मुसलमान कोई पीछे नहीं रह जाएगा।
हाँ, मगर सिख, ईसाई, पारसी, मुसलमान या किसी और का मुकाबला अनुसूचित जनजातियों के साथ नहीं हो सकता। ये सारी जातियां पैसे वाली भी हैं और सोशली सिक्योर्ड भी।
ठीक बात है, पर अगर एक बार आरक्षण का दरवाजा खुल गया तो देखिएगा सभी लोग अपना हक मांगेंगे और हिंदुओं के लिए सरकारी नौकरियों में जगह नहीं बचेगी, जबकि संख्या में वो सबसे ज्यादा है।
आप चाहते क्या हैं?
सिर्फ मैं ही नहीं, सरदार पटेल भी यही चाहते हैं कि हो सके तो संविधान में आरक्षण की बात ही हटा दी जाए।
मेरे रहते संविधान से आरक्षण नहीं हटने वाला, चाहे आप कितना भी जोर लगा लें मुंशी जी।
पर कोई रास्ता तो हो सकता है ना?
हाँ, एक रास्ता है। मैं ही हट जाता हूं संविधान की ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी से।
अरे
फिर आप लोग जैसा चाहें वैसा संविधान बना लीजिएगा।
सुनिए भीमराव,
Ambedkar felt there was no point staying in the Constitution Drafting Committee if he couldn't voice the sufferings of Dalits. Ambedkar not only took a step back from the responsibilities as head of the drafting committee, but he also made a move to resign from the post of law minister too. All of this intrigued Sardar Patel, and he himself walked up to Ambedkar to convince him otherwise.
मुंशी जी की बातों से आप नाराज हो गए भीमराव?
लेकिन वो तो आपकी बात लेकर आए थे मेरे पास, इसीलिए मैंने कहा कि मैं ही ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी से हट जाता हूं।
आप तो जानते हैं कांग्रेस क्या पूरे भारत में दूसरा और कोई है ही नहीं जो हमारे संविधान को आकार दे सके। खुद बापू भी यही कहा करते थे।
लेकिन आप उनकी बात मानते कहां हैं पटेल जी? गांधी जी पिछड़ों को रिजर्वेशन देने की मेरी तजवीज से सहमत थे। पंडित नेहरू ने तो खुद पंडित होते हुए भी यह कहा कि सदियों से हिंदुओं ने निरीह अछूतों और आदिम जातियों को बेबसी, दरिद्रता और अशिक्षा में रखा। फिर अगर हमें उन्हें सबके साथ बराबर लाना है तो हमें उन्हें स्पेशल ट्रीटमेंट देना ही होगा।
आपकी बात सही है, पर आप तो जानते हैं कि बड़े पदों पर हम मेरिट के आधार पर ही लोगों को ले पाएंगे। तो फिर क्लर्कों की नौकरी के लिए इतना बड़ा जोखिम उठाना?
जोखिम? मुझे तो इसमें कोई खतरा नजर नहीं आता।
खतरा यह है कि अगर हमने एक विशेष वर्ग को आरक्षण दे दिया तो बाकी के लोग भी आरक्षण की मांग करेंगे और भारत भर में जातिवाद का ये जहर फैलता जाएगा।
जहर तो हमने पिया है सदियों से और फिर भी हम जिंदा हैं। रीढ़ की हड्डी तोड़ डाली आप लोगों ने हमारी, फिर भी हम लोग खड़े हैं। अरे एक बार हमें अपने बराबर आने का मौका तो दीजिए पटेल जी, फिर देखिए कैसे हम आगे निकल जाते हैं। और यह काम बिना आरक्षण के नहीं होगा। अगर फिर भी मेरी बातें आपको जहरीली लग रही हैं तो मैंने अपना इस्तीफा तैयार रखा है, आप खुद लेते जाइएगा।
मैं बड़ा जिद्दी आदमी हूं अंबेडकर जी, लेकिन मूर्ख नहीं हूं, किसान हूं। देखकर ही बता सकता हूं कि कौन सा बीज कल मुझे अच्छी फसल देगा।
Mahatma Gandhi dreamt of having a Dalit woman as India's first Prime Minister. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but it was for Gandhi only that Ambedkar became the chairperson of the drafting committee and India's first law minister. But it was a bigger challenge to have Dalits and so-called untouchables contribute in the politics and social building of the country. Beyond these, there were other social issues too seeking a solution. There was a demand for the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes and Anglo-Indian community to be given reservation in the employment sector. The topic of giving reservations to Muslims in jobs was raised too, but a walkout by several Muslim members from the assembly put a stop to it. Female members asked to remove the Parda system, Devdasi and multiple marriages legally from society. Alongside, for minorities, protection was demanded. This was so that the world didn't assume that India had compromised with the idea of secularism. Sardar Patel was the president of the committee formed for the rights of minorities. 12 days post-independence, on the 27th of August 1947, Sardar Patel presented a report concerning the rights of the minority communities. His emphasis was on a proposal that no community will have its own isolated constituency.
Sardar Patel was the leader who persuaded other members to give right to minorities also. You know it very well. Freedom of religion is there. Article 29-30, minorities can conserve their rights and educational institutions. The debate of the Pakistan ban gaya. Why should we give all these rights? Said no. Indian democracy must give equality to all. And you must have freedom of conscience. You must have freedom of religion. But minorities must have the right to conserve that.
During the time of independence, Dalits were not counted among Hindus but among minorities. From the days of slavery, Gandhi considered them as an integral part of the Hindu religion. In the Constitutional Assembly, K.M. Munshi also said that they should get reservation until they become a part of a larger Hindu community.
The original proposal, and that was actually approved by the House, by the Constituent Assembly, was that reservation should be given to the religious minorities, that is, the Muslims, the Sikhs, and so on. That was the original proposal.
Creating a constitution for a country mired in caste and religious issues was like balancing two sides of a scale which till now had weighed mostly everything on the metrics of caste. While discussions about the rights of Dalits and the backward classes was going on, another crucial issue emerged: the Uniform Civil Code. On November 19, 1948, H.C. Mukherjee chaired the Assembly on this very question.
India had already paid a price for the dispute between two religions. That is the reason why, when Muslim member Karimuddin held a threatening tone to maintain Muslim personal law, Ambedkar somehow tackled the situation. But it was a setback for Ambedkar, who wanted to make a Hindu code bill on a similar basis.
In a nation where even basic necessities were scarce, creating a new framework was seen as a way to address multiple issues. While tackling various serious matters such as land ownership was challenging, the enthusiasm of Sardar Patel and Jawaharlal Nehru helped prevent major conflicts, and the Uniform Civil Code was a contentious issue, even then, with different religions and tribes following their own code.
Sir, I beg to move clause 19, which runs thus: no property, movable or immovable, of any person or corporation, including any interest in any commercial or industrial undertaking, shall be taken or acquired for public use unless the law provides for the payment of compensation for the property taken or acquired, and specifies the principles on which and the manner in which the compensation is to be determined.
When monarchs of the country felt a threat posed to their land holdings, they asked for compensation, and that became a reason for yet another rumble in the assembly. Socialist leaders then also asked, what if someday farmers were to give away their lands? Won't they get any compensation? This question was so complex, we can guess it from the fact that when Jawaharlal Nehru brought the first constitutional amendment on May the 16th, 1951, it was on the issue of land. The other big question, what would the political governance system of the country be? For this, many governance mechanisms were consulted and observed. Some members wanted proportional representation like Ireland. But when advisors of the Constitutional Council went to Dublin, their leader Eamon de Valera shed tears over how many shortcomings it really had, and that he himself wanted to change it. So that idea went straight out the window. Some people wanted a Swiss system directly elected by cabinet ministers, but this did not work either. Some members believed that there would be a presidential system like America, in which there is a guarantee of stability of government, but the parliament becomes weak. In this way, everyone then chose the constitutional system like Great Britain, in which the stability of the government may or may not be there, but the feeling of responsibility remains at the highest level. India chose the cabinet structure of the Westminster system. It was also decided that the Prime Minister would be at the top in the cabinet, but his position would be a first among equals.
During an assembly meeting, T. Prakasham showcased an ancient Kanjivaram temple manuscript demonstrating how leaves and utensils were used as ballot papers and boxes in the past. Many leaders presented such historical exhibits. Raghuveera argued that ancient India had a form of democracy limited to educated men, but Pandit Nehru ensured that every citizen would have the right to vote. India was one of the earliest countries ever, even before America, to accord women voting rights. Then, the age for voting was set at 21.
The constitution was ready and India was all set to become a fully democratic country. But then a question appeared on the honesty and fairness under Article 75 of the Indian Constitution. K.T. Shah then brought an amendment proposing, whenever a leader takes oath as an MP and whenever he steps down, he or she will have to state their net worth. But Dr. Ambedkar himself rejected it, that this should be left to the public.
The framers of the Constitution hoped that the public's patience would hold leaders accountable, recognizing the need for change over time. Consequently, provisions were also included for constitutional amendments. India has seen around 103 amendments, some of which have been very beneficial, while the others deeply contentious. We'll explore these amendments in our next episode. Till then, goodbye.
We, the people of India, have solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, political, and equality of status and opportunity. I adopt, enact, and give ourselves this Constitution.